Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees take 3 of 4 from the Boston Red Sox and now improve to a 3-game lead in the American League East over the Baltimore Orioles. So things are looking pretty up for the Yankees right now. They have won 3 straight series at the Cubs, home against the Royals, and now home against the Red Sox. And this was a pretty eventful series, a 4-game set. Yankees do actually end up winning the season series against Boston, going 7-6. Now, if you remember, they lost 2 of 3 in that first series at Fenway, lost 2 out of 3 at Yankee Stadium, but then kind of turned things around a little bit with that win at Fenway at the end of July. Kind of got them going a little bit. That was right around the trade deadline. Of course, then started to struggle again, but they are able to take 3 of 4. And for me, the main players, the stars of the series, if you will, Aaron Judge, definitely, 1A, but want to give a little bit of love to Gleyber Torres. And defensively, there was one kind of miscue that comes to mind that I believe happened in game 2, where there was a ground ball that he didn't really go towards. Not sure if he would have made the play anyway, but just kind of stood there. But the main thing is Gleyber, a couple of home runs, and look, of the Yankee Stadium variety, no doubt, but wanted to include him in here because, look, he's been frustrating, but to be honest, offensively, has really found a home in that leadoff spot and has honestly been very productive for the last couple of months. And so, again, Judge, who gets off the schneid with a really big grand slam in game 2, and what a way to do it. He hadn't homered in, 16 games, and it's his finally number 52 in a big, big way. Really, I'd say the biggest moment of the series when you look back. I mean, although the Yankees did have another walk-off hit, Juan Soto, in game 1. So that was back-to-back games of walk-off hits. Jazz Chisholm Jr. doing it in that last game against the Royals. Soto in game 1 against the Red Sox. But the Judge Grand Slam was the big thing. But look, Gleyber homered in game 1, homered in the 4th game, and had RBIs actually in all 4 games. So that for me is where, again, I don't want him to get lost in the shuffle because really it'd be easy to say, hey, there was a time when you could group Gleyber in a different way, but with those struggling Yankees. And I guess the best comparison is probably the Verdugo category, right? Because you kind of have the LeMahieu and Rizzo, it's all different subsections, but obviously in terms of kind of veterans that are just kind of maybe wearing down, right? You can kind of put LeMahieu and Rizzo in that bucket. Again, not everything being equal, but Verdugo, who actually himself has been better at the plate recently. With that all said, though, really Gleyber has really ascended to a point where, look, the fact of the matter is Gleyber is batting leadoff and Verdugo is batting, more so 9th when he's in the lineup, right? Because it's kind of a platoon situation between Verdugo and Jason Dominguez in mainly left field. I mean, there are times when Dominguez is in center field on the games where Giancarlo Stanton's out and Judge's DH. So, but a lot of interesting things in this series, and that's kind of maybe always going to be the case with Red Sox Yankees, but things kind of ramped up kind of on the negative side in game 3. So where I'm giving praise to Judge and Gleyber, really the big negative, Gerrit Cole, where just really a head case situation for Cole, who was cruising along, gets into the 4th inning, had a no-hitter actually, at early portion of the game, and he intentionally walks Rafael Devers. Now, we know that Devers really, truly does own Cole. I mean, in a big, big way. And I don't mind that Cole, in some ways, acknowledges that. I think it's good to be aware of it and to not, act as if it doesn't exist. But it led to as bad a situation as possible for Cole and the Yankees. As he intentionally walks Devers, it kind of pumps the Red Sox up. What then happens is Cora tries to rally Boston as he's then saying, because Cole hit Devers in the 1st inning. And so his conclusion is, okay, if you intentionally walked him in the 4th, then clearly the hit by pitch was intentional. I don't think it actually was. And I'm down on Cole, right? Because in some ways, it was a weak move. Intentionally walking him in that situation, right? It's one thing if there's a runner on second and you have an open base at first. But in that spot to do it was kind of lame. It really was. And Cole, quite honestly, wasn't able to recover. And kind of admitted that he wouldn't do it again. I understand the premise, but to do it with one out and no one on and a 1-0 game in the fourth, intentionally walking him, it's admitting defeat against Rafael Devers. And in some ways, it was proven right by the fact that later on, like the next at bat, I think it was, bases loaded. It's weird how the baseball gods work, where he couldn't walk him. He ends up getting a 2-run hit off of Cole. So that was a bit of a down period in the series. But ultimately, you leave the series, and Boston's pretty much done. This, to me, they're losing 3-4. It put them out. They're 5 out on the loss side with what? For Boston, got to be 12 games remaining. So, and you have a couple of teams to climb as well. So while Boston's not really officially eliminated, this all but did them in. So that feels good from a Yankee perspective to kind of get the Red Sox truly out of there. And by winning 3-4, they did that. Because splitting, I don't think that would have been so satisfying, but the 3-4, the way it was done was pretty nice, especially winning that last game. So that was good. But yeah, look, Yankees, 12 games left. That is all it is. It is a West Coast trip at Seattle and at Oakland. And you're facing a Seattle team that is they're still hanging around. Like whereas Boston is out, Seattle, they're still in there. They're 2.5 games behind the Twins to that final wild card spot. They're also still in contention for the AL West, but really I don't make much of that. The Astros are going to win that division. So for the Mariners, their best path in is the wild card. They're tied with the Tigers, same record at like 77 and 73. And then, like I said, 3 out on the loss side, 2.5 back of the Twins. So not impossible. Seattle, so they'll be into it. And then, of course, you have the Oakland series where, look, that'll be Oakland's last homestand. Second to last home series, I believe, is what it is. So at the Coliseum. So this will not be an easy week, in my opinion, whereas on paper it may seem to be. I don't think it necessarily will be. And then the last week of the season, a homestand, home against Baltimore, which has been talked about for a while, and then Pittsburgh. So the Yankees in a decent spot right now, but things are far from determined. So they have a 3-game lead on the Orioles, but you have that 3-game set with Baltimore, and Baltimore has the tiebreaker. They do. So that's the thing. So, like, there's still Yankees are in as good a spot as they have been in the division really in a long, long time. And you have to feel pretty good about their chances, but a lot can still change. And then as far as the American League is concerned, the other team to keep an eye on is the Cleveland Guardians. Yankees are 1 game ahead of them, but the Yankees do have the tiebreaker with Cleveland. So what's important there now, you still, if you win the division, you still get that bye. But what it does is it kind of, you avoid the Astros longer. And let's be honest, I think the Astros are one of the most complete teams in the American League. But here's the thing too. I wouldn't want to play them, but if I do, I don't know. I kind of want it to be in the ALCS, just knowing that in the past years and kind of exercising those demons. Those have always been best of 7 ALCS series. So for me, like, I would almost prefer, if you're to match up with them, let it be best of 7, even though you could argue, oh, hey, maybe best of 5 is better. You can kind of maybe like outmaneuver, like, less of a sample size. But I don't know. I still think that would be more epic while also having the chance of not playing them. So that combination, I think if the Yankees can finish in first, I think that would be preferable for the reasons I just outlined. So the only real news that comes out of this series, and by the way, as a side note, please like and subscribe, would be very appreciative of that and very helpful of the channel. But for the Yanks, it's Marcus Stroman getting demoted to the bullpen. And I didn't think they'd do it. I really didn't think they'd do it at this point. I thought they might wait on that, but that happens. And by all accounts, we haven't heard from Stroman, but through Boone, sounds like Stroman took it well. And it doesn't mean he won't get any more starts the rest of the season. Like, let's keep that in mind. But this is a little bit of a hint and a clue to the fact that Marcus Stroman, which we already basically knew, that became pretty apparent, especially lately. Stroman's not going to be part of that postseason rotation. So this is a good move. I feel like the Yankees are slowly but surely, lately, sometimes it takes them a long time, they're making some sound decisions. And so ones that may appear obvious, but they don't always make. So Stroman going He is the number 6. He is available in the bullpen. He technically was available for game 4. They didn't need him. It wasn't that type of game. But yeah, chances are you might see him in relief in the Mariner and or Oakland series. And then they'll reassess probably, because I could see if some of the Yankees are in a situation where they're trying to maybe line things up towards the end of the season, I could then see Stroman in a somewhat meaningless game against Pittsburgh, let's just say, slotting in for a start. Just a thought as far as that goes. But then again, we'll discuss at another time what it means as far as like going from 5 to 4 in the rotation come playoff time, or 4 to 3, even in the case of like an early round, DS series, or, hopefully not wild card, and what happens with that. But, look, I think you're looking at Cole, Rodon as definite locks. And then Heel is probably close to a lock for that third spot. I won't go as far as to say that, but look, I think Schmidt and Nestor as well really have a case. And that's where we'll segue in, because honestly, Nestor Cortes was really, really good in game 1. He is pitching with that a little bit more swagger like we used to see from Nestor, really going back to 2022, 2021 as well. But Cortes in game 1, and again, mind you, Yankees coming off that walk-off win against the Kansas City Royals, they are able to also walk off the Red Sox in game 1. Cortes, 5 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, and just one mistake, a home run to, of course, Danny Jansen, who is a Yankee killer. And so him going to the Red Sox is kind of fitting from the Blue Jays. That was the one mistake that Nestor made. So ERA's at 3.90. Like, he's been looking pretty good lately. And it's just going to be interesting what his role is. But I like there's a fight to Nestor. And I think that he is someone that I think he could be valuable in whatever role you have him in. Him being a lefty, I think helps his cause, in the bullpen. Like, I think that whereas Stroman, I think, will probably be a forgotten man, like, come playoff time, Nestor, even if he is considered the 5 and he moves out of the rotation, I still think that he might pitch in some pretty high leverage situations. But either way, Cortes is making his case to stay in this rotation. And, and especially Cortes has been really good at Yankee Stadium for the course of the season. Again, I don't think they're going to make much of that, but it's just a thought. If he ever were to get a start in the postseason, you'd probably prefer it being at home. For the Red Sox, their starter would be Cooper Criswell, and he actually did pretty well. 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, and just the 1 homer to Gleyber Torres in the first inning, and one that was an opposite field homer for Gleyber. And look, like Gleyber at this stage of his career, because there was a time when he would kind of hit some pretty deep shots. Now it's more of the Yankee Stadium, short porch homers, but you'll take it. But just, want to acknowledge that too. But yeah, as far as the Yankees lineup goes, it's really a situation where there is a bit of a rotation, like Verdugo and Dominguez and Stanton kind of been rotating a bit. Now, like I've said, in the case of Stanton, he will basically get 100, if healthy, 100% of the playoff starts. This is more of a regular season load management thing, but they work it in. Whereas Dominguez versus Verdugo, it's somewhat of a 50-50 platoon. I still leave this series, as I did last, with saying that for game 1, I think that Dominguez still has that small leg up, certainly against righties. And it's the ironic thing that versus lefties, you would think, okay, you wouldn't go Verdugo, but because Dominguez is poor from the right side, it could be like that, where Dominguez is kind of on the strong side of a platoon. We'll find out, though. We'll find out, because Verdugo has been hitting okay. He really has been. He hasn't been like a joke by any means. And for Dominguez, I think he left the series in a better place offensively, because he hasn't really done much. But I think he's looking better and better. So that's what I'd say as far as that goes. Real quick, just running through each player. I already mentioned Gleyber Torres. I like what he's doing offensively. Juan Soto, Juan Soto hasn't really done too much lately, but there's no concern. There's no concern at all for myself, or I'm sure for any of the other Yankee fans. He does get that walk-off hit, which is great to see. His first walk-off as a Yankee in game 1. But yeah, he was held down pretty much for the most part in this series. Always good for walks, always good for some quality at-bats. But yeah, for Juan, definitely has been dipping, but you know what? Like, again, not really a huge deal. Aaron Judge, this was a series for him where he got back going, where, you saw it a little bit in the Kansas City series, but it really came to fruition in this Boston series. Again, that grand slam hits a mammoth homer in game 4, up to 53 home runs. So could you dream on 60? Sure. You probably could. Now, as far as him breaking his own record, that would be a bit foolhardy. But for him to hit 7 homers in his last 12 games, and in essence, I guess, if you want to extrapolate it back to the Red Sox, like 9 in his last, 9 in his last 15, it's something that Judge is capable of certainly doing. So I guess it's something to still, keep in the back of your mind. But beyond that, Austin Wells continues to do well. No pun intended. He started the first 3 games of this series. And Wells, he's just kind of good for like at least a hit a game, it feels like. Now, I'm probably contradicting it, because if I had to guess it, I mean, let me just check real quick. Wells probably went hitless in one of the games. Oh, he actually did last year. So Austin Wells, this wasn't really much of a series for Austin Wells, to be fair. Like, the vibes are high with him, and that's kind of why I said what I said. But to be fair, it was a pretty quiet series for Wells, but not someone you're concerned about. Giancarlo Stanton, a definite an improvement series for Stanton. He had been definitely on the struggle bus coming in, but yeah, pretty good series for Giancarlo. Jazz Chisholm Jr. And again, it's tougher because I'm thinking about the 4 games. Right now I have the box score in front of me from game 1. But Chisholm Jr., okay, not great, would probably be what I would say offensively. But again, vibes-wise, feeling pretty good about Jazz. Jason Dominguez, kind of touched on him briefly before. Anthony Rizzo, not great, like, for me. And as Waldo started at first base in game 4, I don't think that it's going to get to a point where it becomes a situation, but I really would like it to be. Or for Anthony Volpe. Now, Volpe did not have a good series. But in the case of Rizzo and Volpe, unfortunately, as Waldo, even in a best case scenario, and look, Volpe, I think, has more of a firm grip on shortstop than Rizzo does at first. So let's take Volpe out of the equation, even though, again, Volpe offensively, it's frustrating. It really, really is. It has not been a very good season offensively, especially when you consider he really was good for the first, couple of months. For Anthony Rizzo, I'll say the defense has been a lot smoother than it had been, earlier in the year, so that's a plus and important. But yeah, I don't know. He is not great offensively at this point. He really isn't. And I hope that there's a chance, and Cabrera continues to kind of chip away in the chances that he does get. So it's kind of a pointless conversation, but one that I think is still interesting to have, because of the fact that I think that Rizzo just isn't giving you a whole lot at the plate. It hasn't been disastrous since he's been back. And what I mean by that is, he's drawing his walks. He's getting hits here and there, but there's no power. And again, you're not going to see him above the 8th spot, maybe 7th in a best case scenario for Rizzo. He is part of that bottom 3, no doubt, deservedly so. And so, yeah, as far as other players are concerned, John Birdie in that pure pinch running role, he unironically gets the game-winning run again, back-to-back games on that walk-off Soto hit. So that's his role right now. Trent Grisham has no role. I've talked about that. No role on this team at this point. I brought up as Waldo, how he got that start at first base. They're trying to work him in every now and then, but it's not too frequent. And then the other person, who else would it be? All right, Trevino, who ends up starting game 4. I mean, Austin Wells has he has a stranglehold on that starting catching role. And that's just how it is, and that's how it should be. So let's go into it. Like I said, Gleyber gets that home run to start out game 1. It is his 13th home run of the season, and it's a leadoff homer for Gleyber. Gives the Yankees a 1-0 lead. Nestor pitching really, really well for the Yanks, and he does allow a homer. I'm just going to jump ahead here. You know what? Actually, I'll mention Volpe was up in some spots. Volpe was up in some 2-out runner score position situations, and he just tries to pull the ball all the time. That's the problem. Just the situational lack of hitting, if you will, and the bad numbers running scoring position. It kind of sucks. It really does. And look, if he's batting ninth and playing good defense, I'll live with it and deal with it. But call a spade a spade. Anthony Volpe, you can't love what you're seeing at the plate from him. But I digress. Top of the fifth inning, Jamie Jansen homers off of Nestor. And so unfortunately for him, Nestor doesn't get the run support, and he's not, it's a no decision for Cortez. And that's kind of been, the win-loss record is not one that Nestor would want to see because he's really pitched better than what that indicates. And I think Cortez, who really didn't get off to the greatest of starts and at times really looked very hittable. Nestor is looking probably as good as he has, in my opinion, all season long now, which is also a good sign because he's had, he's tired out at points in his career, at the late stage of season. So it's good to see him kind of almost in some ways, it feels like building up strength at this important time of the baseball season. Ian Hamilton comes in. Ian Hamilton, that's somewhat of an interesting conversation too. He has looked very good, much better than he did when he went down. Ian Hamilton is more looking like the one that we saw for a lot of 2023 and the very beginning of 2024. So Hamilton, I think that he may soon find himself in that sort of high leverage mix. They don't have him there quite yet, but I think he could be very valuable and really deepens that bullpen quite a bit. So Hamilton goes 1 2/3 innings, no hits, no runs, no walks, and 3 strikeouts, and looking good doing so. You have a situation where Jazz Chisholm Jr. gets picked off of first base on a first and second. Chris Well's taken out. They bring in the lefty Cam Boozer. Dominguez is up, and he thinks that, I guess Chisholm thinks that Wells might steal, go from second to third, but he doesn't. And it puts Chisholm in a tough spot, and he gets caught. So not great there. Again, the base running miscues for this team and the defensive follies still are a thing for them. And I think that is something to be somewhat concerned about. They need to clean up on some of those things. You got another Volpe big situation. To be fair on this one, at the end of the sixth, he did hit the ball hard, to be fair, but nothing to show for it. 1-1. Tim Hill gets the last out of the seventh. Tim Hill has been an unsung hero strong, but he's been really good. He goes 1 1/3 innings, no hits, no runs, no walks, and 1 strikeout. Tim Hill, ever since coming over from the White Sox, has been fantastic. And he also is kind of working his way into some bigger situations. So let's jump to the ninth. Tommy Kahnle comes on, and Tommy Kahnle has been really very good lately. Aside from a couple of outings that weren't great, Kahnle, like I said, I think last time, it's going under the radar. He's been around for a while. Tommy Kahnle, who obviously went to the Dodgers, so it wasn't like he stayed with the Yankees the full way through, but this was one of the few Yankees, him and Judge, from 2017. I guess it's probably just him and Aaron Judge that were part of that team. Unless there's someone obvious that I'm forgetting. I think it was just those two. Obviously, Gleyber, there was hopes that Gleyber would make it up that year, but he got hurt. So, Tommy Kahnle, again, we've seen him as a Yankee for quite some time. And he, maybe has as big a role as he's ever had with the team. Now, so he does get into some trouble in that ninth inning, but is able to get out of it. Then let's go to the 10th. And in the 10th, Kahnle gets the first out of Willie Abreu. And then who comes in? Clay Holmes. Now, remember, Clay Holmes, what had it been? The night before, I guess, right? The night before, Holmes blew the save, technically, in the 7th inning. But Holmes does the job. He gets Rafael to ground out and Duran a flat. So good job by Clay, who has looked all right lately. They're kind of bringing him in certain spots, kind of mid-inning, which, can be effective, where if his control is on and he's not walking guys, again, like I've said, I'd rather Holmes be, for example, I would rather Hamilton be ahead of Holmes on the pecking order if it were me. It doesn't feel like we're there at this point. But anyway, bottom of the 10th, Yankees are able to seal the deal. Josh Winkowski comes on for Kenley Jansen. I skipped over some of the Red Sox reliever stuff, but John Birdie pinch runs for Gleyber Torres, and Juan Soto gets a walk-off RBI single. Birdie showing off that speed, and he needed it. Rafael's throw was just off, and the Yankees walk it off to win 2-1. So a good pitching performance from the Yanks. Cortez, Hamilton, Hill, Canely give the win to Clay Holmes, and Soto is the hero. The Yankees win it 2-1. Game 2. This one looked pretty bleak, to be honest with you, later on, but ends up kind of being probably one of the more exciting wins of the Yankee season. So the pitching matchup for this one, Clarke Schmidt, who for him, he kind of ends up maybe running out of gas at the end and really making one or two mistakes. But he was really good. 5 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Just been pure consistency for Clarke Schmidt, and he ends up with the no decision. And then for the Red Sox, they scratched Tanner Houck. He was supposed to be the original starter, and it ends up being Richard Fitts who starts with the Red Sox. Now, that name might sound familiar because he was involved in the Alex Verdugo trade. He came from the Yankee system. And Fitz ends up pitching pretty well. It wasn't pretty, but it was his first major league start. I think it was his second appearance. He goes 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. So, yeah, he might have been fortunate in some cases, but hey, no runs is no runs in 5 innings. And so, yeah, not a great job by the Yankee offense, who at that point had really been sputtering. And you can argue still kind of is. The Yankee offense has not really been great for a while now, but they've been finding ways to get wins, really thanks to the pitching doing a really good job. So in this one, you get Verdugo back in the lineup and Chisholm out. That's kind of the main switch up in game 1 compared to game 2. Let's jump all the way ahead. Again, I know at some point the Gleyber, let's see, when was it? It might have been, it was the, okay, right, it did affect them. It was the 6th. It was the Jarren Duran leadoff single where Rizzo, I'm not sure, I think Gleyber might have thought Rizzo was going to go after it. And look, it might have been a single regardless. But either way, not a good look by Gleyber to just sort of stand there. And then ultimately, you get 2 outs. So the inning could have ended if that is, handled effectively. But Masataka Yoshida takes Clarke Schmidt deep for his 10th homer of the year, 2-run shot to give the Red Sox a 2-0 lead. So Clark's night ends on a bit of a sour note, even though he pitched pretty well. Really, more than pretty well. Mark Leiter Jr. comes on and finishes out the inning, but we're not done with him just yet. Let's jump to bottom of the 6th. Justin Slayton comes on for Richard Fitts, and a situation where Rizzo ends the inning on a strikeout again. For Riz, it's just, I don't know, not great. Although he did have 2 hits. To be fair, he had a double and 2 hits on the night, so not gonna be too hard on him. 7th inning, the Mark Leiter Jr. struggles continue, and for me, he can't be a lock for that postseason roster. Just can't be. He has to be right on that bubble. And based on just performance, he doesn't deserve to make it. 1-out single for Tristan Casas, and then a 2-run homer for Trevor Story. Trevor Story's first home run of the season, actually. He came back. He had been out due to injury and came back recently. Makes it 4-0 Red Sox. There was a double by Jarren Duran as well. So Leiter Jr., who actually ends up getting the win because of what I'm about to say. But yeah, 1 1/3 innings for him, 3 hits, 2 runs, and another homer allowed. It's been ugly for Leiter as a Yank. The 7th is when the Yankees get it going. Zach Kelly, the righty, comes on, and the Yankees have given Zach Kelly some problems, specifically Judge, when I think back to the season. But Volpe leadoff walk, then Verdugo. So as much as Volpe hasn't done well, he does get that leadoff walk. Verdugo as well. And then Gleyber with an RBI single makes it 4-1. They take out Kelly and bring on the lefty Cam Boozer, who walks Soto. That sets the stage. 4-1 game, bases loaded, no out. And on a 2-0 pitch, Aaron Judge hits a grand slam. Yankee Stadium goes crazy, gives the Yanks a 5-4 lead. Let's just jump straight. There were some things that happened in the 7th, but not that important. Let's jump to the 8th. And so and for me to have not remembered this until now is shame on me, because this game was about Aaron Judge and Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver has been such a great story. He was kind of a failed starter, someone that had a lot of he was decently thought of. Came out of the Cardinals system, traded to the Diamondbacks to the Paul Goldschmidt trade, and just it didn't work, him as a starter. The Yankees pick him up at the end of last season. He makes 3 starts with the Yankees. They re-sign him. He ends up in the bullpen, and it's been such a good season for him. He's really kind of become a fan favorite. And what does he do here? He gets a 2-inning save, which is not something you see very often. In a 1-run game, he ends up getting 5 strikeouts. Strikes out the side in the 8th. There was a single mixed in there. And then the 9th, he is able to strike out Rafael to end it. He was pumped up. Luke Weaver at this point, he may not be your closer, but he is absolutely up there. In terms of that depth chart in the pen, he is up there. And right now, for my money, it's probably him and Tommy Kahnle at the very top, with Jake Cousins just a little bit below. Just a little bit below. Not much. But Luke Weaver, like, he might be that. I mean, if you ask a Yankee fan, like, who is number one in that pen, the answer, they probably will give you Luke Weaver. Just in sort of just the way he's been. Because, right, Kahnle, it's kind of funny because Tommy Kahnle, he is known for personality, but he hasn't really shown it that much. Luke Weaver, on the other hand, like, there's so much emotion. It's fun watching Luke Weaver pitch. He has been by far one of the biggest surprises in a positive way for this Yankee club, and he is able to find a way to close that out, and the Yankees win 5-4. That was big time. Game 3, this is where things get negative for the Yanks. And it was Gerrit Cole who was front and center of that. Gerrit Cole ends up going 4 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. Really? And he was looking really, really good. Really good going into the 4th inning. And he just did it to himself. And then for the Red Sox, Brian Bayo goes 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. So he ends up kind of getting it done. Bayo, who's been pretty good for the Red Sox lately, he improves to 14-7. Cole drops to 6-5. In this one, this was a game where Stanton didn't play. So Dominguez in center, Judge to DH. And look, in this game, Yankee offense was pretty much silent, but Cole was the problem. And let's just kind of go into it. 3rd inning is where the Yankees take the lead. And it was a Volpe single, and then Verdugo singles, but is outstretching, trying to get a double. And we've seen that lately from Verdugo, where a little bit over aggressiveness and just not great base running. He probably should have stayed at first. Ultimately, the next batter, you do get a Gleyber Torres RBI single, knocking Volpe in, making it 1-0. Then the 4th inning, mind you, Cole has a no-hitter. He intentionally walks Rafael Devers with 1 out, nobody on in a 1-0 game. Pretty crazy, and it gets worse. Devers steals 2nd. It's Devers' 3rd stolen base of the season. Cole has to pay attention to him. Tyler O'Neill then walks, and then Yoshida with a ground rule double knocks Devers in, moves O'Neill over to 3rd, makes it 1-1. And then Willie Abreu, he gets a 2-run single, makes it 3-1. So the whole thing kind of blows up on Cole, but it actually gets worse in the 5th. Because in the 5th, single by Story, he steals 2nd, Danny Jansen walks, Valdez flies out, and then Jarred Duran's hit by a pitch, which sets up the stage for bases loaded 1 out to that guy, Rafi Devers, who gets a 2-run single, makes it 5-1. Then Tyler O'Neill is hit by a pitch. And then Yoshida, he gets a 2-run single to make it 7-1. Gerrit Cole leaves the game. He is booed by the Yankee fans. It just did not work out well. And communication was pretty bad. Boone admitted after the game that he probably should have told Cole no to the intentional walk. Austin Wells didn't even know that it was happening. So, yeah, look, what does it mean in the long run? It really shouldn't mean much. In terms of Gerrit Cole and the Yankees, as it pertains to the Yankees-Red Sox thing, sure. That might be something that we'll look to next year, right, with the Cole Devers thing. But as far as Gerrit Cole's concerned, he's got to just forget about it and come back with a good start next time. That's really what it comes down to. So 7-1, Tim Meza comes in and kind of does yeoman's work. Tim Meza ends up going 3 2/3 inning, allowing 4 hits, no runs, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. Throws 41 pitches, but pretty efficient to do it in 3 2/3 innings. So Tim Meza, who kind of continues to hang on this roster, and he might be kind of here to stay. But, I mean, he's going to be one of those bubble guys because I think Tim Hill is ahead of him at this point, but Meza's been all right. But at the same time, they may value other things that, for example, if Nestor goes to the pen, then at that point they might feel, all right, he's another lefty we have. We don't need Meza. But again, those are conversations for a few weeks from now. So anyway, yeah, not a whole lot else to speak of other than I guess Aaron Judge was kind of thrown at, which was kind of admitted to by Cora the next day. Just weird in the 6th inning where they weren't able to hit him. Cora said that we had our chance and we didn't. Cora, to me, I get why he does what he does, and I really think he's one of the better managers in the league. I really do. But if you're a Yankee fan, it's tough to like Alex Cora. He's just kind of a bit annoying, a bit But if you're a Red Sox fan, like, you kind of have to love them. It's one of those things. So anyway, Yankees lose 7-1. Tim Hill would pitch the last inning, by the way. Tim Hill has actually pitched, the more I think about it, he's pitched a lot. The good thing with him is he doesn't throw many pitches. So he kind of has that rubber arm. But yeah, Tim Hill, like, he kind of, it feels like he's pitched maybe like 4 times. Like, it's possible that he's pitched like maybe 4 times in the last 6 games, like in the last 6 days or something like that. It's been a lot for him, maybe even more than that. So let's go to game 4. And at this point, like, hey, if the Yankees lost game 4, my whole tone would be completely different. It really would be. So that's kind of how tenuous it can be. Carlos Rodon does a good job. Was he amazing? No, but a pretty good outing for him. 5 1/3 innings, 6 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. He improves to 15-9. So for Rodon, he's not the pitcher that he was before he came to the Yankees. He isn't, and I don't know that he'll get there. But for Rodon, it's been a good year. It's been a good season. Nothing more, nothing less. Some may go further than that. I'm going to keep it within there. It's been a good year for Rodon. And in this lineup, no Rizzo, Cabrera at first, no Verdugo, Dominguez in left, and then no Wells, Trevino catching. So, and for Jose Trevino, the offense has dipped for him since Wells has really, since Trevino's come back and Wells has that starter role. Trevino, the stats are definitely dropping down for him for sure. No doubt about it. Volpe with the hat trick too. Just looking at the box score for game 4, Volpe with the hat trick. Batting average down to 246, OPS down to 663. I mean, that's as low as it feels like it's been. And he's had some low moments. Again, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. But yeah, for the Red Sox, it's Cutter Crawford. And Cutter Crawford, he's been struggling for the Red Sox. 8-15 now for him. 4 1/3 innings, 6 hits. 4 runs, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. And the Yankees take the lead in the second inning. Jazz Chisholm Jr. singles, and then Giancarlo Stanton with the RBI double. So Giancarlo, a much better series for him. That was good to see, because again, you leave the Kansas City series and it wasn't great. But like I had said then, it didn't look ugly, but the stats did. Anyway, Chisholm Jr. showing off that speed, really impressive for him to score on the RBI double. Not many could do that. So it stays at 1-0. It honestly could have been more, but you get a Volpe strikeout, a Cabrera strikeout, and a Trevino strikeout in a situation where they could have tacked on more. But they do tack on more in the bottom of the third. Gleyber Torres homers to the opposite field. The Yankee Stadium homer is 14th homer of the year. And then after a Soto single, Aaron Judge hits his 53rd home run of the year. An absolute tank job. 445 feet. Gives the Yankees a 4-0 lead. But in the fourth, the Red Sox would fight back. With 1 out, Devers singles and Tyler O'Neill homers. His 31st homer of the season makes it 4-2. And then, Rodon is able to kind of make it through into the 6th. And that's where they bring on Ian Hamilton with a runner on third and 1 out. And Hamilton strands that runner at third. He strikes out Story and Jansen. Great job by Ian Hamilton, who would also come out to pitch the 7th, allowed a hit to Rafaela, but Hamilton did what he had to do and a good job in the 6th. Tim Hill comes on, and what does he do? He gets so many ground outs. Double play Duran, ground out Romy Gonzalez. And then in the 7th, the Yankees score a run due to, in part, some not so good Red Sox defense. It's a Gleyber infield single, a 1-out walk by Judge. They bring on the lefty Bailey Horn against Chisholm Jr., and he reaches on a fielder's choice and error by the second baseman, Romy Gonzalez. So that puts the Yankees in a better spot. Bases loaded, 1 out, and Stanton gets a sac fly to make it 5-2 Yankees. So a pretty big extra run there. And then in the 8th inning, Hill gets Devers to ground out again. Tim Hill, just been great. Clay Holmes comes on in the 8th inning. He strikes at O'Neill, gives up a double to Wong, and then gets Yoshida to fly out. So did what he had to do. And for Clay Holmes, it's actually his first hold of the season. Let's go to the top of the 9th. Jake Cousins comes on. And the one thing that I learned here is that maybe Jake Cousins might not have the stomach for the 9th inning. Just a thought. And I'm not afraid to go back to him, but it was a hit by pitch to Trevor Story on the first pitch. Then he struck out Casas, then he walked Abreu. So a little bit out of control. Just a thought that I have. I don't know. But either way, Jake Cousins has been awesome, and I definitely want him pitching in big spots. But maybe the ninth inning just might not be for him. Maybe that's more for Weaver, for Holmes. Sorry, not for Holmes. Not for Holmes. For Kahnle. And Tommy Kahnle actually comes on with Jarren Duran as the tying run, first and second one out, and Kahnle gets the double play of Duran. And the Yankees take 3 of 4 from the Red Sox. A pretty satisfying overall series for the Yankees, improving to 87-63. And now they will head out west to take on the Seattle Mariners. And let's just discuss those 3 pitching matchups that are lined up for this series. Luis Hill versus Brian Wu. That's a pretty good pitching matchup, in one in which most fans, like going into the season, you may not have heard of Luis Hill or Brian Wu, but they are very much 2 of the better starters in the American League, with both of them, a lot of strikeout. But we know Hill's strikeout ability, but Wu too. Although Wu, it almost seems like, because I know he has strikeout ability, but his ERA is really low. He's just, long story short, he's good. So that's game 1. Game 2 will be between Nestor Cortez and Bryce Miller. That's another good pitching matchup. Again, the Mariners have really good pitching, specifically rotation starting pitching. And then game 3 will be Clark Schmidt against Logan Gilbert. So the Mariners are full of righties. They're very right-handed heavy, which should work for the Yanks. So that's something else to keep in mind. So yeah, Mariners, they are going to be pretty desperate. They need to really reel off wins to sneak in to that final playoff spot. So it should be a pretty interesting series. The Mariners, they've given the Yankees, I'd say, some fits in recent years due to that good pitching. I think about the Yankees going to Seattle, which is now T-Mobile Park, and the offense has been a bit skittish, which isn't too much of a surprise in some of those Seattle games. So hoping the Yankees can do what they have to do. Meanwhile, Baltimore, they're home against San Francisco. So on paper, which means nothing these days, definitely Baltimore has probably the advantage as far as the series. But as long as the Yankees can kind of just, hey, at worst, maybe lose the game to Baltimore. But hey, if you stay 3, if we, come next episode, if it's still 3 games with at that point 9 games to go, that's not a terrible place to be at all. So the Yankees just have to kind of stay afloat. But they're playing pretty good baseball. But there's also another level for them to take. I think the Seattle series will be a decent litmus test for the lineup, right? Because that Mariner offense, that's not so good. So I'd expect the pitching to do their job. But what can the offense provide you? So again, it'll be the last road trip of the regular season, and it's a West Coast trip. And those can always be tricky. So again, Yankees will go from the Bronx and head to the Northwest to take on the Seattle Mariners before having their last series ever at the Oakland Coliseum against the A's. Should be an interesting 6-game road trip. 12 games to go on the season. Yankees 87-63, feeling pretty good after having taken 3 of 4 from the Boston Red Sox.